You built things to reach the sky. So did we. Maybe that is why our people could never stop reaching for each other. The perimeter alarms at Nexus 7 outpost had not sounded for 11 days. Corporal Ethan Graves considered that a miracle or a bad omen, depending on which end of a rifle you were standing. The ceasefire between the Unified Earth Command and the Sylvvari Sovereign had been signed 43 days ago, on paper. On the ground, both sides still moved carefully, watching each other across the buffer zone like two wolves circling a narrowing clearing. Ethan had been assigned to the outermost guard post on the eastern corridor, a glass-walled observation room built into the side of the treaty facility, silent, cold, and mostly forgotten by command. He had just finished his lunch, 2 protein bars and a flask of bitter coffee, when he heard the sound. It was small, soft, like a pebble dropped into still water. He turned. Standing just inside the doorway of the observation post was a child. She was unlike any child Ethan had ever seen. Her skin was the pale silver gray of a winter moon. Her hair fell in long braided ropes the color of old snow, each braid threaded with tiny crystal beads that caught the light. Her eyes were wide and pale silver, enormous in her small face, blinking at him with a curiosity that held no trace of fear. She couldn't have been older than 7. She held her hands loosely at her sides, her head tilted, studying him the way a bird studies a strange insect. "You are the human soldier," she said. Her voice was clear and formal, the translator chip in his collar rendering her Sylvvari words into clean, precise English. Ethan did not reach for his weapon. He did not shout for backup. Something about her stilled every trained reflex in him. He simply nodded. "I am," he said carefully, "and you are very far from where you're supposed to be." She looked around the room with quiet interest. "I wanted to see the guard post. The elder soldier said it was forbidden." She paused. "That made me want to see it more." Ethan exhaled slowly. He had absolutely no protocol for this. The child of the Sylvvari Queen, alone inside an Earth military observation post during a still fragile ceasefire. If the wrong person saw this, the treaty would be ash before nightfall. He crouched down to her level. "What's your name?" "Lyra," she said simply. "You, Ethan." She stepped further into the room and pointed at the small model spacecraft sitting on his equipment crate. A battered replica of an old Earth fighter he'd been repairing since deployment began. Something to keep his hands busy during the long, silent watches. "What is that?" she asked. "A ship," he said. "An old one. Human-made. From a long time ago." She stepped closer. "Can I hold it?" Every rational part of Ethan's brain said no. But Lyra was already reaching, and he found himself placing it gently into her small silver hands. She turned it slowly, examining every panel and engine detail with those wide, ancient-looking eyes. Then she sat down, simply folded her legs, and lowered herself to the floor as if she owned the room. She set the glowing teal orb she'd been carrying at her side so she could hold the ship with both hands. Ethan sat down beside her. For the next 20 minutes, he explained each part of the model, the wing configuration, the engine housing, and what the tiny insignia on the hull meant. Lyra asked questions with the focus of a seasoned engineer. She was sharp, faster than he expected, connecting details before he'd finished explaining them. "Your people built things to go beyond your sky," she said quietly, turning the model once more. "We did," Ethan said. "So did mine." She looked up at him. "Maybe that is why the elders fight. Because we both wanted the same sky." Ethan had no answer for that. It was the most honest thing anyone had said to him in 43 days. He didn't hear the footsteps until they were already in the corridor. The door of the observation post opened. Queen Valus stepped through. Ethan was on his feet in a single motion, his hand instinctively near his sidearm, but he didn't draw. He would never draw. Not with the child sitting on the floor between them. Queen Valus was nothing like he had imagined. He had seen holographic intelligence profiles, military photos, and formal diplomatic footage. None of it prepared him for the reality of her presence. She was tall and luminous, her silver skin catching the cold light of the room like polished stone. Her ceremonial armor fit her like a second skin, intricate crystal filigree stretching across the chest. Her platinum braids were crowned with a delicate jeweled ornament, and her pale eyes, large, quiet, and devastating in their stillness, moved from Ethan to Lyra and back again. She did not speak for a long moment. Lyra looked up. "Mother?" she said simply, as if nothing at all was wrong. "This is Ethan. He has a ship." The silence stretched. Valus's eyes moved to the model still resting in Lyra's hands, then to Ethan's face, then to the untouched weapon at his side. She was reading him, everything all at once. He held perfectly still under her gaze. "You did not raise an alarm," she said finally. Her voice was low and precise. "No," Ethan said. "You did not remove her." "No." "Why?" He thought for a moment. "She wasn't doing anything wrong," he said. "She was curious. That's not something I can fault a child for." Something shifted in Valus's expression, barely visible, but real. She looked down at her daughter, who was holding the spacecraft model up toward her, offering it for inspection. The Queen reached out and took it with the same gentle precision her daughter had used. "You explained this to her," she said. She asked. "I answered." Valus set the model back into Lyra's waiting hands. She straightened and looked at Ethan, not with suspicion, not with warmth exactly, but with something rarer between their two peoples. Honest recognition. "I will escort my daughter back to the delegation wing," she said. "Of course," Ethan said. She reached down and took Lyra's hand. Lyra clutched the spacecraft model for one more moment, then held it out to Ethan. He took it. Their silver fingers and his human ones touched briefly during the exchange. "Goodbye." Queen Valus guided her daughter toward the door. At the threshold, she paused for barely a breath and glanced back at him. She did not say anything. She didn't need to. Some agreements are made before words exist. Ethan stood in the empty observation post long after their footsteps faded, holding the small ship in both hands, looking at